kia ora tātou, haere mai, and welcome along to my jazzy, glittery, spangly, showy ovaries. And today, to make it even more showy, I have decided that in a tribute to the fallen legend of musical theatre, Stephen Sondheim, who died this week, that I will sing my introduction. You are very welcome. It'll be like the musical episode of Grey's Anatomy, but hopefully less shit. It's a cappella because that's arty. So are we ready? It's time to flash my showy ovaries, a podcast of menopausal memories, hosted by me, Penny, who's perimenopausal quite possibly. I'll stop singing soon and we can talk about bits. I'm just missing stage time in this apocalypse. But just a quick reminder that I am not a doctor and you should seek medical experts if you find that you have symptoms that you are unsure of, leaks, pains, or maybe some squirts. But today, I have a guest whose showbiz in her veins, a queen of laughs, a writing whiz, a feministing dame. So please put your hands together for Levin's finest export. It's the one, the only, the mighty, marvellous, magnificent, remarkable Michele A'Court.
My word, that is the best introduction anybody has ever had at any point, anywhere, anytime.
Thank you very much. I was slightly nervous doing that, which is ridiculous, but that's what these things are.
Isn't it, in these wild pandemic times, isn't it interesting that you can sit in your office in your very own house by yourself, possibly wearing trip pants, maybe not, and still be nervous like you would be if you were about to go on stage.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing thing. I love it.
Right, good. So you've been doing a lot of that?
I have. I resisted doing comedy via Zoom because I thought that was an appalling idea. And then I worked out that it's like making television and that if you can arrange for the structure of it to be like a chat show with somebody asking you questions,
right,
or you asking the audience questions, then it's all actually quite lovely.
I did a brief gig where I was performing to two people. It was going out to a lot of people, but it was sort of ostensibly two people who were loving it. And that just made it so much more fun.
I have made it very clear to people that if they're going to leave their camera on, they need to be engaged. They're not allowed to leave your camera on and then turn half away and check the weather report on your phone and yawn, because that will make me cry. And no one wants to see someone cry on Zoom. That's awful.
And that's the thing. You always notice the one person that's not having a good time in any audience.
Course.
And if it's the only person... That's pretty fucked. Right. So how's everything going anyway in lockdown with you, etc.?
It's okay. So I don't know. I mean, I love it and I hate it. I have a very much a love-hate relationship with it. I'm quite an introvert and I love being at home. I love my husband. I love my cat. I've enjoyed the slow pace. I am the housewife that my mother wished I was. All of those things are great. The silver is clean. The brass table shines. I've increased my cooking repertoire. But also I am just devastated that I can't go and do the things that I love to do.
Absolutely.
Which is be with my grandchildren and my daughter and get on stage and get on a plane and go see the world.
Yes.
So,
you were quite the traveller before, weren't you? We both were, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My life was supposed to, from first quarter of 2020, was supposed to be about pretty much nothing but travel.
Oh, right. What had you planned, or do you not want to dwell on it?
No, that's okay. I'm over it now. I'm okay. We've just got refunds on almost all of it, but we just got the refunds on the air travel, which we had kept for a while because it was a sort of signal of hope.
Yeah.
But I decided that actually having those return tickets to LA was a bit like driving around with a dead body in the trunk. So we cashed them in.
Fair enough.
No, we were off to 6 weeks to the New Orleans Jazz Festival and Disney World and the opening day of the baseball season in Anaheim. And we were going on a Caribbean cruise.
Oh, no.
It was pretty much the trip of the dream trip.
Right. Okay. Which, yeah, and who knows? But that's just it. And everybody's clamoring for certainty, but there is no certainty.
I know, I'm starting to feel quite confident. And then it's called Omnifuck.
I think that's it. That's it.
I
Yeah.
think pretty sure that is the new strain, and I don't feel confident anymore.
Yeah. However, I did read something about the fact that it could be, because this is what happened with H1N1, apparently, is it mutated into something more mild.
Yes,
So
that is what they do.
yeah, so I think that's what that. There has been a lot of reports that it has been mild symptoms so far, but we haven't really learned about what it is in older people so far. I think that's that's going to to be the thing. But hopefully,
why are you looking at me when you say older people? Why did you? I saw you look at me.
I'm making eye contact. Because you're much older than me, Michelle. Much older.
I know. I'm ancient.
Anyway, I have another. That was quite a wonderful introduction before, but I have a more fulsome one for you now. That I
oh my god!
Yes, so brace yourself. So here we go. Michele A'Court is one of New Zealand's most recognisable faces, with a career spanning nearly 35 years in the public eye. She originally trained as a journalist, but we first saw her on our TV screens hosting What Now in 1987. From there, Michele went on to carve out her own career in journalism with columns in Stuff and the Woman's Weekly, in social commentary on Radio New Zealand, 7 Days and The Project, as a writer of non-fiction books, including Stuff I Forgot to Tell My Daughter, an actor, and most notably as a comedian. Not only was she a pioneer of the New Zealand stand-up scene as we know it today, but she was one of the very few tenacious women at the time to hold their own and continually excel in the comedy world, which also laid a path for the explosion, I think, of the female talent that we have today. From Auckland's classic comedy bar to some shitty dive bars to headlining international gigs and festivals, Michele has sparkled in all settings. Of late, she is loving being a grandmother, and no doubt teaching them all about being a stroppy feminist. So please welcome Michele A'Court.
Oh, that's so lovely. Oh my God. I hope some of that's true. I'm not sure. I can't tell anymore. I loved it. It sounded great.
Good. Well, it was in your bio, so that's a lot of it was on your website. But I also... I do think definitely, because there were women, and there's been a lot of women that have started comedy, but a lot have fallen away.
I think that's a real sign of whether an industry is healthy or not, is for how long do the people who are not straight white men stay. And for a long time, women came in the same numbers as men, but just didn't stick around. I mean, sometimes they did sensible things, like moved into running the comedy festival with a salary and some power and control. But it has changed now, and women come and they stay. It's bloody great.
They absolutely do. And I think that people like you, and a little bit me, have had a lot to do with that.
Oh, you too. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I pivoted away from the stand-up per se because I did get a little sick of a lot of the stuff that came with it. But just being there, I think, is fucking great. So hooray. Yeah. I also have to thank you because I don't know, it must have been like 2004 or something. You got asked to review a book of poetry for Radio New Zealand and you didn't want to. And so you told them about me. And so I did it. And that was my first gig on Radio New Zealand. And I've been doing gigs for them for about 20 years. And and I credit Jim Moore for my politicization in a way. When I had to think about what I thought about things, I realized I felt quite strongly about things.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to you for me being a rabidly left-wing political person.
Oh, I think that's great. I really love that because I think that's one of the things that women can do for women is say, when somebody asks us to do a thing, sometimes it's great to say yes and it's great to push yourself and it's great to step out of your comfort zone. But if you really don't want to do it, think of the person that you could gift that to see if it gets them started on something. So that's fantastic. I love that.
And what was funny too was they asked me and I was like, oh, I don't know. And then they said, we want the every person approach. And I said, well, in which case I'm perfect. And I was just really happy. I was really happy that I really liked the book because then it was easier to praise something than to criticize it from a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Do you remember what was the poetry? Who was the poet?
It was Billy Collins, who was the poet laureate of the US. Yeah, at the time. And it's a wonderful book. So, yeah. I feel like you would do that now, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I do still do both of those things. I say yes to things that I have no idea how to do because I think that's fun. But I also quite like going, you know what? I'm not the queen of this. I think I could pass this on. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. So now, my question that I've been asking everybody is, what has your relationship with your body been like in your life, and what journey has it been on? And has your like big feminist awakenings at university and things like that, has that changed it in that time, or what
So
has?
I didn't have a feminist awakening. I
Oh, I thought you
was
did.
born a feminist, I'm afraid. Well, I mean, I was 4 when I had my first feminist fracas, which was my brother and I were very close. He's a couple of years older, and all the kids in our neighbourhood were boys. And one day, one of the boys, Russell and Warren and my brother and Brian, we were over at Russell's place, and Russell's mother said, "Go home to your mother. The boys don't want a girl hanging around." And I was like a hot anger, rage filled me. And I went home, and my brother came with me because he's a lovely person, and we told our mother what had happened, and she was a feminist and horrified that somebody had sent me away for being a girl.
Yeah.
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 So that's my feminism has been around forever. I don't know. I think it's also got something to do with sitting in the back bedroom at my great aunt Ruth's house reading Catherine Mansfield when I was about 10, and
Right.
I read a lot of books written by women. I think I had the women's perspective on the world and life. That was how I saw the world. The literature that I was reading was so often written by women. When I went to university, I remember for shits and giggles reading, as opposed to what you're studying, I decided that for a year I would read nothing but books written by women. So I just basically go to the Victoria University Library and look for Virago Women's Press on the spine and go, "Oh, have that, thank you."
Right. Fabulous.
Yeah.
I think I came to it a bit later. I think it was always there. Like I always had that girls can do anything, but I never really thought about the minutiae of the male privilege in various ways. Like, we never saw 2 women hosting anything. It was always about the young, gorgeous woman. And then I'd never really broken that down into getting fucked off about it a bit later. And I had a lot of issues with body image and stuff like that was when I was younger. Did having these ideas from a young age help inform you to be more accepting of your body? Or was that
Maybe I think so. By the time I got to my late teens, I was reading Naomi Wolf. I wouldn't read it now. And female eunuch, what's her name?
Germaine Greer.
Germaine. I wouldn't read her now either. Never mind. What happens to them when they get a bit older? Oh, got a bit mad. So I was reading those things. I mean, I think I had the same relationship. When your body starts to change, you go, "Oh my God, why is it doing this? Why do I not look like Audrey Hepburn? How come I'm this height?" But then you appreciate that it's healthy and functioning. And then my body kind of wasn't. So I had major issues with periods. It runs in the family, and like incredibly heavy periods. So that by the time I got to my late 30s, I had the whole lot out.
Yeah, right. So it was just excruciating.
Yeah, so my periods would be so painful I would vomit, and like the most appalling cramps, really heavy flow, which is every woman in my family has a story about the coat or the dress or the couch that she's ruined.
The couch. Wow.
There's this really lovely, when I was about 15, 16, I came to puberty late.
Yeah, wow.
Going to Napier where my great aunt lived, and my mother was there and my grandmother, and I kept going in and out to the bathroom, and they all noticed and said, "Well, what's with this?" And my great aunt saying, "Oh no, have you started that terrible nonsense?" And then they all sat around the kitchen and told me the stories about what they'd bled on. And it was the most wonderful, bonding, delightful.
It is. Like I've talked to quite a few people now, and most of their mothers haven't been that forthcoming and open. So I think that's great.
We're that kind of family, really.
Right.
So my standard for knowing if a man is a good man is if he's like my great uncle Frank, who would do 2 things. One is he would notice that my great aunt Ruth was sitting outside and needed her cardigan, and just go inside and get it and bring it to her and say, "You'll be needing your cardi, Ruthie." But also he made it a thing that whenever they left the movies, he walked behind her because there was always a really good chance that she would have bled through.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus. Right. And did you have good, sorry. That's like, holy fuck. Look at that.
I horrified you. I love it.
I was just so lucky. I've been so lucky I don't get PMT.
Oh my God.
Yeah, nothing. I would get pain, but not much, and to Nurofen, it was gone. So I realised that I'm beyond lucky.
So I was getting to the point in my mid-30s where I would look at my diary and somebody would say, could you come and do a thing on the 12th of September? And I would look in my diary, my cycle was like clockwork, and I would think, you know what, I will be lying in a fetal position and vomiting on that day, so probably not.
Right. And was the medical professional good?
My GP wasn't necessarily, well, and that's being a little unfair. What he did was pass me on to a gynecologist who was superb. He's not here in New Zealand anymore. He moved to Las Vegas because you get paid quite well when you're a gynae.
I can see that.
But Chris was fantastic, and I remember going in to see him, and he saw in my notes that in excruciating pain for 3 days out of 28, that I'd had all the children I wanted to have. He did an ultrasound. I can't remember. Ultrasound. I don't know. They had a bloody good look. They had a bloody good look,
yes.
And he drew a picture of my uterus and ovaries, which I always think looks like a cow's head, like with the horns and the long face.
Why the long face?
And he drew a picture of that, and he said, so there are fibroids here, and he drew all around the edge of the uterus. You got fibroids, it's all blah. And over here on this ovary, cysts, this ovary, quite lovely. So I suggest what we do, and he drew a big X across it and said, let's get it out, shall we?
Right.
And I thought,
get that shit out there. Right, okay. And was that a grieving process, or were you like, fuck yeah, let's get rid of it?
A bit of both.
Right.
So the first thing, I was a bit shocked initially, and then I had a moment of worry about whether if I had my uterus out, I would grow a beard.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Because it's not my thing. I like it on other people, but it's not my thing. But because I'd already decided that Holly was my one and only child, there wasn't that part of the grief. And then I had to have a little think about, does the uterus is that what makes me a woman? And I realised very quickly, absolutely not. That's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So came to terms with it really quickly. And honestly, it was the best thing. God, it was just so extraordinary to be without that pain.
Yeah, it must be transformative. Yeah.
It was so liberating. But the cute thing was, because Chris Heron, my gynae, was such a forward-thinking dude, he kept the ovary that wasn't far. And the cute thing about ovaries is that they take turns, right? Each month.
Right.
I do July and August and July and, what I mean.
Yes, I know.
When an ovary is left all by itself, it goes, where's my mate? There's no one doing August. Oh, all right, I'll do it. And so it would set off the normal hormonal journey each 28 days. So I still got PMT, though I dealt with that by, again, my forward-thinking gynae gave me the progesterone cream that you rub on topically to your wrists, back of hands, whatever. So that dealt with the PMT. Mostly I was just so happy not to be in pain and vomiting.
I can't even begin to imagine. I've developed some chronic digestive issues that are very irritating, and they're kind of constant. It's just a bit of pain, but it's just a bit of pain, like a low-level pain. But I'll be very happy if that ever goes away, as opposed to something so debilitating. And, and that's the problem too, that women are taken out of the workforce for a couple of days every month. Yeah. They're not taken seriously. So you must have just enjoyed the non-interruption to your professional life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it was incredibly freeing and wonderful and cheaper. And you didn't obviously have to think about contraception, any of those things. So, yeah, I was very happy.
Did you know anything about menopause?
I did. I knew that my mother talked to me about her menopause, and I knew that it was highly likely that I would follow the same path as my mother. Women tend to follow a maternal line. So she went into menopause at 50. And so I figured 50 was probably when I was going to hit menopause. Again, forward-thinking Chris tested me a couple of years after. So I had the hysterectomy at 41. He tested me 2 years later and saw that I was they called it then pre-menopause as opposed to peri-menopause. We're talking like 2005. I didn't hear the word perimenopause until maybe 5 years ago.
You know, I heard it. Well, 2013, I think, was the first time I heard it, and I was like, "What is that?" So
So he said, "You're in premenopause. You need some HRT. And let's go with the natural cream, that progesterone cream that you can rub on your wrists." And so we did that, and I did that for about 5 years, and then he went off to Las Vegas. And I felt fine, and I stopped using it, and I felt fine, and I felt fine. And then I turned 50, and I started having hot flushes.
Right.
Which I didn't mind. I like them. I still have them 10 years later.
Oh, wow. How often?
I have them at night. I will wake up in a pool of sweat, which is great. And I have them, maybe I will have 3 a day.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's substantial.
Is it? I don't know.
But the question is, how long is it going to keep going for? That's the thing. I look like I'm having a hot flash now, but it's very hot in this room.
It suits you. It's like being on a tropical island. It's just like an inner. I mostly find the world a bit chillier than I would like it to be.
Right.
So a hot flush kind of sorts it out for me. It's very related to 2 things for me. I will have a hot flush. It's very hard for me to tell the difference between a flush and a little bit of anxiety.
Right.
They feel physiologically exactly the same. So I will, if I'm feeling nervous or anxious or embarrassed, like if I'm in a group of people and I'm suddenly slightly embarrassed, I don't blush, but I have a little flush.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And also the other thing it's related to is alcohol intake.
Yes. Now I don't believe you. I don't believe you. So what?
You don't want to believe.
Yeah. So tell me, it gets better when you drink more. Is that right?
No. Upside down.
Fuck. Is there like a tipping point? Is it like 3 glasses of wine, or because I know that you're reasonably fond of a glass of wine.
I am reasonably fond. I don't drink as much as I used to at all.
Is that because of this?
Yeah. I've noticed that the older I get, the better I feel when I don't drink.
Right.
And I've lost the taste for it to some extent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as interested in drinking as I used to be.
Right. Okay.
So,
and that's good for all manner of reasons. So
it is good for lots of reasons. But yeah, if I drink a few glasses of Prosecco of an evening, if I have a bit of a wild time on the Prosecco, I will wake up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, bathed in sweat, and probably suffering from some kind of post-social anxiety.
Oh, really? Like worrying if you've said something to offend people? Or...
What did I say that for?
Right.
Yeah.
It's so funny, isn't it? I just don't imagine you doing that, but that's the thing about things like that. Everybody doesn't think anyone else is doing it, but they probably all are.
I think everybody does that.
Yeah.
I think everybody does that.
Yeah. Right, okay. So did you have any other symptoms or just some hot flashes?
Yeah, just that. So I've been very lucky. I think my mother wouldn't put up with people who had PMT or made a fuss about menopause. God bless. She had a really easy time of it.
Right.
Heavy bleeder, but not the pain with the periods, and a very straightforward menopause. And so she like, my mother didn't believe in headaches. People don't actually have headaches. They're just wanting a little bit of attention.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Wow. Right. Did she believe in cancer?
In cancer? Oh, yeah. No, she knew that was real.
Right.
So I think I have a little bit of that I wanted to not have a bad time. I think, especially after the terrible time I had with menstruation, that after that, anything was great. In comparison with that, anything was terrific.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And have you felt like, because often when you deplete in estrogen, you have all sorts of other things like around your joints and your skin and hair thinning and things like that. Have you noticed things like that?
Yeah, I have a little bit of joint pain from time to time, especially if I don't make sure I get enough exercise. It comes and it goes. I have a knee problem and a foot problem, and occasionally the joint in my thumb. It's all on the right-hand side. So here's the terrific thing I've discovered about when you're in your 50s and things go wrong, you think, well, that's that then. I'm going to have a sore right knee for the rest of my life. And then you find out that if you get orthotics, I'm very sexy, Penny. I'm very sexy.
Obviously, I can tell that by looking at you. So you mean like fancy shoes? Fancy shoes?
Well, you get orthotic inserts to go into your shoes. If you get proper orthotics and you do sufficient exercise, the pain will go away.
Completely.
You can get better.
And that means you can't, because you used to wear high heels and you loved high heels,
Yeah.
but you can't do that anymore.
I had to give away 32 pairs of high heels.
Yeah, I'd be similar. Yeah, right. And you couldn't have an operation or something instead.
I know. Well, they can do with the weird thing that's wrong with my foot. They can, but there's a very low chance that it's successful and a very high chance that it will grow back. So I just decided I'm going to get into really cool flats.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like not drinking as much. You just have to grow up. I'm like 47 going, fuck, I'm going to have to grow up at some point and do this. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And through that, was that like a podiatrist who told you?
I went to my osteopath sent me to another osteopath who did a magic thing, where you walk on a electronic board and it measures how your foot falls, and then they send a prescription to America where they do clever things, and they send some orthotics back that you put inside all your shoes, and then you have to ride a stationary bike every day, or at least every second or third day, just to keep the knee, because your knee gets fucked because your foot's fucked.
Right. Yes.
And if you don't catch your knee, because your knee's doing things to make up for your foot being fucked, if you don't catch your knee, the next thing that happens, your hip's fucked. So I've stopped. My hip's great.
Good, because your foot bone's connected to your knee bone, and your knee bone's connected to your hip bone. Well, that's good that you've stopped that in its tracks. And so the exercising that you have to is cycling, stationary cycling.
Cycling's really good for people with knee and foot problems because there's no weight on it. Yeah. It's not like running, walking, any of those things. So the weight's all on your bum.
Yeah. Do you still do yoga? Because you liked yoga, did you not?
I did, and I would like to go back to it, but I haven't. One of the other things about being in your 50s is that you have to take care of your elderly parents. And because I, first of all, took care of Dad and then my mother over a period of 7 years, the thing that had to go to fit that in was yoga. So that could come back now. I could go back to yoga. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I kind of hate yoga. Just like,
do you? Why?
Because you have to stay still. I can't try that again. I can't even say it. You have to stay still and breathe. And I just I like sort of high impact. I used to like jumping around and stuff, but for the same reasons now I do spin classes and weights, but yoga and I'm not very spiritual at all in any way, shape or form. And it's stuff like that. I'm just like,
no, it's not working for you. I meditate and I love that. That's,
tell me about that.
About meditating? Oh my God, I love it. It's it's just climbing down inside yourself and shushing your brain and focusing on the breath and letting go of all the stuff that isn't yours and remembering who you are right at the core of you.
Right. And how often do you do that?
I try to do that every day, and it's just 10 minutes every day. Right. I don't succeed with every day, but 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. What I like to do when it's not raining, even when it's raining, go to the beach, go for a walk on the beach, find a nice spot, sit down, put my buds in, listen to a guided meditation for 10 minutes.
Right. You can imagine that involves sitting still a lot as well. I can see that. It's so funny. Just things like even just hearing the word imposter syndrome and knowing that it existed, that sort of gave the validation to me to realize that it's not just me. But it's amazing. Just hearing that defined and knowing that it's out there in the world as a thing was quite revelatory to me. So I can see that just sitting down and doing that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's just bullshit what gets in your head, isn't it? Like,
it really is.
And it can be reinforced by certain members of certain industries at certain times. And that
my God. Oh, my God, yeah. No, that whole thing of letting go of what is not in your control is a really beautiful thing. And that's what I'm really learning as I get older, is really acknowledging and appreciating what I am not responsible for.
Right. Fantastic.
Which is pretty much everything except for me.
Yeah. So now people in your life around you, so did Jeremy know anything about menopause, or was it a learning curve for him?
He was deeply involved in the whole hysterectomy process.
Great.
And he was fantastic. I don't know if it makes a difference that he's the son of a doctor, but has no squeamishness or qualms about any physical nonsense. So totally understanding. Yeah, so support from there. Yeah, and then once the surgery was done, then you just kind of trot along being liberated and happy and cheerful.
Right, okay. Have you had other friends that have been a bit harder hit by menopause and things?
So, not as far as I know. We all do jokey joshy things about, I'm a bit older than most of my friends, I suppose. We do jokey joshy things about hot flushes. I do comedy about menopause and talk about, because one of the things I think that happens, you lose whatever the hormone is, I guess is it estrogen? The hormone that makes you want people to like you drops away.
Right.
You know, whatever hormone is that women have that makes them want to be attractive just drops away. And what you're left with is quite a bit more in relative terms. Maybe there's a bit of testosterone. I don't know. But there are no fucks to be given.
Yeah.
And I find it much easier to access my rage and access it in a way that's not chaotic.
Right. Laser focused rage.
Yeah. So PMT would make me just kind of angry, but weepy. But now I feel very comfortable accessing my rage.
Right. So you never had any brain fog or anything like that?
Sorry, what was the question?
Did you have any brain fog?
Yeah, but I mean, I never know what to blame that on. Stressful life, working too hard, two parents who one after the other were incredibly ill and died, trauma of raising a teenager.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm never sure what to blame it on.
That's totally common, right? It's like, well, which is it? And I think it's good to know that it's a possibility of being this, so that if it's debilitating, you can do something about it, but you're not entirely sure what it is.
Yeah. And I think there are people who know, because of the way their life is arranged, that it's the menopause that's doing the brain fog. And then there are people whose lives are just so fucking chaotic that you don't know what to blame it on.
Is that what you're saying yours is?
Well, it's not now, but it certainly was. In my 50s, my 60s seem to have achieved, well, not achieved, heading towards a little more serenity. But my 50s were crazy. You know, it's that sandwich crush of, I have a child to raise, I have elderly parents who need me, and then grandchildren turned up, and my career was exciting, and so it was fucking all on. And now I don't take anybody to dance class or water polo. Oh my God. Pick a sport that doesn't start early.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many less responsibilities. I have fewer responsibilities. Where's my grammar?
Do you miss any of that, or are you happier now?
Oh, I'm happier now, I think. Well, I mean, I loved all those things, but I bloody love being a grandparent because there's a simplicity to it where all I have to do is love those little munchkins within an inch of their lives. But I don't need to make them eat broccoli.
Yeah. All care, no responsibility. Right.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't care what time they go to bed. What? I'm not organising their lunch for tomorrow.
Yeah. Great. Because I've never wanted children. Grandchildren do seem more fun, but it's just unfortunate you have to go through that first.
You can't skip the first bit.
No, that's a shame. And do they move to Tauranga? Is that where they are?
Yeah, they're in Tauranga. So I haven't seen my babies since August, since lockdown. They were here the weekend before we went into lockdown, as it happens. But they'll be here the day after the border opens. They are coming up.
Fantastic. Great.
And they'll stay for weeks.
And have you talked to your daughter about menopause at all?
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
She's primed and she's ready to go. Well,
primed and ready. Looking forward to it. She can't wait for it. She's a bit like me. She bleeds like a stuck pig as well. So I did the thing for her that my mother did for me. Did I say this?
You told me about your mother, but not that you did it for Holly.
Okay, so Mum bought me those books when I was on my way to university. Did I tell you?
No,
that?
You didn't tell me about that.
Let me tell you about that.
Okay.
So the days that I was 17, leaving Levin, heartbreaking, and moving to Wellington, and my mother and I stopped at a bookstore in Waikanae, and she got some books for me, and one of them was The Height Report by Sheer Height, which was about women's sexuality. And this, which I don't have because I gave it to Holly, this one, which is called From Woman to Woman, a gynecologist answers questions about you and your body, Lucienne Lanson.
Wow.
Look at that.
Wow, that is a vintage piece. I love the font.
I mean, any question about premenstrual tension, periodic overload, irregular periods, masturbation, how to become pregnant, how not to become pregnant, is sterilization for you, abortions. Yeah.
Great.
Brilliant book.
Great. Fantastic. So you told Holly about all these things as well?
Yeah, we've been ridiculously open. I told her about, I always wanted to be the first person to tell her about things like periods and sex and all of those things. And I think it often turned out that I might have told her a little bit soon.
It's so interesting as being older and looking back and remembering how I get squeamish about my parents talking about stuff. You can sort of think about other people, but you don't want to hear about it from your parents and things like that sometimes.
So it was okay hearing all that stuff from my mother. She was really terrific at it. And like I told you about in the kitchen with my great aunt Ruth and my grandmother and my mother, that was how we always talked about everything, was sit around the kitchen table, ladies, and tell your stories. So it was never icky or awkward.
But Holly got a bit embarrassed, or?
No, she was, I just think she was confused. I remember when I told her about what sex was, where babies come from, literally was the book, Where Did I Come From?
Yep, I had that book. Yep. And
she looked pale and frightened at the end of it and said to me, at that point Jeremy had been living with us for a couple of years, and she said, "You and Jeremy don't do that, do you?"
It's like,
so that sounded a bit yucky.
I hate to break it to you. I've said this already, but what I came home and said to my mum from Catholic primary school was, "Is it true that Dad sticks his penis in your bottom?"
And the answer was,
I don't know. I like to say it, yeah, only on his birthday, but yeah. But I just think that's so funny. My mum was pretty open about lots of stuff because I think it's being a nurse, and she was keen for us to know. Yeah, a nurse, exactly, that sort of thing. Right, okay, excellent. So she's all primed and she's all ready. Is there anything else around menopause or anything that you thought you might want to share or talk about?
There's a thing that I didn't know, that now I know it, I can't unknow it, which is that because I've just been reading a preview copy. What do you call that? An advance copy. I read an advance copy of the fabulous Nikki Bazant's book about menopause.
Yes.
And one of the things that had never occurred to me is that one could, if one wished to, because things downstairs can get a little dry, one could moisturize one's vagina, not just when it's busy with lubricant.
When it's busy, when it's occupied.
When it's got stuff going on, when it's got the painters in. No, that's different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you could just moisturize it every few days, like you moisturize your face or your legs or your whatevers. It had never occurred to me. And I'm always suspicious when somebody says you could put a thing in your vagina. I think, who's making money out of that?
Right, you think it's like a vajazzling and all that sort of thing. So this
is it a jade egg?
This is Ovestin cream, hey, you're talking about?
Well, somebody else said that to me. I just buy a thing at a chemist warehouse.
And why not? Yes.
And it's just cool. I don't know. I don't want to say a brand name. There's plenty of them. But it's just a moisturizer, and it comes in a Tampax tubey thing, and you pop it in the morning, and a couple of days later you do it again, and it just keeps everything moist.
Well, that's marvellous. Right, good, yeah, because Ovestin cream is quite good for that as well, but that's got estrogen in it. So it depends what. Yes, that's a prescription thing. I think, I'm not sure if you have to pay for it or not, but my guest Anna Sophia a couple of weeks ago, she uses Ovestin cream and swears by it. She also takes testosterone and says that's given her a lot more clarity and brain function and things like that as well.
I'm hearing some great things. I feel like I'm beyond it and I don't need this stuff now, 10 years in, and I'm pretty all good. But I'm hearing wonderful things now about people being able to get a kind of like a tailor-made cocktail of the kind of hormones that would be the very best for you. How freaking wonderful.
Yeah, and it does feel like menopause is definitely having a moment. I find it interesting.
Yeah.
So there's the two Nickies have two menopause books coming out in
Yeah.
January. Nikki Pellegrino and Nikki Bazant in January. So it does feel like it's having a real zeitgeist moment, and which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think my whole thing with this is the more we talk about it, the more we know, the less it's stigmatized. And it's astonishing, particularly around this woman that I'm talking to from the UK who's leading a menopause revolution there, that there's a lot of doctors that they don't have a specialist menopause training section at all when they're training to be doctors. And things like this is just ridiculous.
Oh, and there's been so little research as well. You know, if you can ask some quite complicated questions about why menopause happens, and people will go, don't know, nobody's actually studied it.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, was that your fun out of the box fact, or do you have another one for us?
I have another fun fact.
You're so organised. Yes. And what would that be?
Well, this is something, it's not to do with menopause, it's to do with your lady parts. Not a lot of people will know this unless they've been through it, but once you have had your cervix and uterus removed, that space is then, from then on, known as, and it was named by a man, the vault.
The vault?
The vault.
Wow.
I find this horrific. The first time I heard it, I had to lie on the floor and laugh. The vault. It's like the suggestion is it's an empty space and you can't get in there.
Well, what about it's a space that has traditionally housed treasure, but not anymore.
Not anymore. Isn't it terrible? Like, a woman would never call the space left afterwards the vault.
Like, it seems it's a bit concrete. It's a bit square.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And a bit inorganic.
It's more of a park. It's more of a clearing. It's a little clearing.
A clearing, right.
Yeah.
So you don't have a cervix, right?
No, the cervix, the thing that opens and closes is gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just have a tunnel of excitement.
Yeah. Well, it gets stitched up.
Right.
So it's like a secret garden with a hidden door.
I sound like so stupid. What are they doing there? Right. Okay. Exciting.
Well, I'm truly not able to answer the question, so I haven't done any research. And then inside there is just one lonely ovary.
Right.
Just going, I don't know what happened to Barry.
Barry?
I don't know where he's gone.
Or Beryl. Right.
I feel like my ovaries are called Pete and Barry.
Pete and Barry. Right. Because one fucked off and left the other one to do everything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to you and Pete and Barry and and all your wonderful wisdoms and witticisms. I know, because when I asked you to do it, you were like, oh, I don't know about my menopause journey is so singular, but I think that's true of everybody. So the more we know.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of women have had hysterectomies and things in the past. I've never had to do that, so it's different for me. But I think people will be listening to this and very curious.
I recommend it. Get it out. Get them all out. Ladies, just anybody, get the whole fucking thing out.
Whip it out. Right. Okay. Well, I'll take it under advisement. Now I should end as I began. So thank you very much, Michele A'Court. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'll see you next year. This is improvised, and the only thing I can think to rhyme is, and you are quite short. Yes.
So
right. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Goodbye.
Oh, my pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was the marvellous Michele A'Court. If you want to find out where she's performing next, all about her books, see some videos, find her podcasts, for example, for the spin-off called On the Rag, then head to michelea'court.com. I hope you enjoyed my singing, and if you didn't, that's okay, because I am actually not a massive Sondheim fan, so that would be fitting. I want to give a personal shout out to my 6 Patreons to give them a warm fuzzy. So hi to Nicola Welton, Jackie Vaughan, Johanna Veth, Graham Smith, Ruth Van Leeuwen and Jennifer O'Sullivan. You are the wind beneath my wings. Fly, fly. Head along to Patreon if you wanted to help me keep this podcast up and running, as I think the wage subsidy is about to run out. My show, Olive Copperbottom, should be my first paid employment in months, and it is going to be at Auckland's Q Theatre from February 9th to the 12th. Also, my birthday is February 10th, so bring presents. Otherwise, this week I am talking to Parliament about menopause. Hilarious. And next week's episode is with the Welsh MP, Carolyn Harris. We had a great chat and I can't wait for you to hear it. I'm talking to Louisa Wall this afternoon, which is good because I've had no sports people. It's not my wheelhouse, the sports people. So I'm looking forward to having her on. Please do share this podcast far and wide. It's amazing the amount of people that have said to me, oh, I didn't realize this, I didn't realize that, and I'm looking into it. So I think we're all doing goddesses work and getting the word out there as much as possible. So please put it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those great places to let people know what might happen to their bits. Otherwise, enjoy the traffic light system, New Zealand. Enjoy your lives, the rest of the world, and stay juicy, people. I have been Penny Ashton reporting for Showy Ovaries.